The last word, the Galactic Council chamber had witnessed many historic moments. Treaties signed in blood and ink. Wars ended with trembling hands. Species welcomed into the fold with celebration and song. But on this day, the vast circular hall, designed to hold representatives from 300 worlds, had never felt so cold. Ambassador Alara Chen stood at the human podium. Her dark eyes swept across the assembled delegates. The Thranic ambassador sat in his elevated seat, mandibles clicking in what might have been satisfaction. The Aquarian diplomats rippled with discomfort in their tanks. The Vorlac observers watched from their shadowed alcoves, saying nothing as always. Chen had served the council for 23 years. She had brokered the Kelmar peace accords. She had prevented the Outer Rim conflicts from spreading into the core systems. She had spent countless nights translating cultural misunderstandings into mutual respect. Humanity had always been the bridge, the voice of reason when others screamed, the steady hand when others reached for weapons, but 15,000 civilians were dead. The Bright Tomorrow had been a colony ship, families, children, scientists, carrying seeds and dreams to establish humanity's 47th settlement world. They had followed every protocol, filed every flight plan, transmitted every required identification code, and the Thranic battle fleet had opened fire anyway. The council had reviewed the evidence for 6 weeks, testimony from survivors, recordings from the moments before impact. The Thranic defense was simple. They had mistaken the colony ship for a military vessel. A tragic error, regrettable. These things happen in contested space. The vote was not even close. The council ruled it an unfortunate accident. No reparations, no sanctions, no consequences. The Thranic Empire was too important, too powerful, too necessary for the council's stability in the volatile eastern sectors. The gavel had fallen 30 minutes ago. Chen had requested the floor one final time. Council protocols demanded she be heard. Even the Thranic ambassador could not deny her that right. She stood in silence for a long moment. The chamber's translation systems hummed softly, ready to carry her words to 300 worlds in 300 languages. Every species that had ever looked to humanity for wisdom waited for her response. When she finally spoke, her voice was steady, calm, almost gentle. We understand perfectly. 4 words. That was all. Then she gathered her materials with careful precision. She descended from the podium with measured steps. She walked across the chamber floor while 300 species watched in confusion. She reached the massive doors, placed her hand on the identification panel for the last time, and walked out. Behind her, the human section sat empty. Every human delegate, every human observer, every human translator stood and followed. Not one of them looked back. The Aquarian ambassador was the first to break the stunned silence. Should someone go after them? But the xenologist Kelrin, who had studied human history for 40 years, sat in his tank with his chromatophores pulsing deep violet. The color of mourning, the color of dread. No, he said quietly. Let them go. Why? Someone asked. Surely they'll return when they've cooled down. This is just anger. Humans always negotiate. Kelrin's color darkened further. You don't understand. When humans negotiate, when they argue, when they shout and demand and plead, that's when they still have hope. But when they stop talking, he trailed off, staring at the empty doorway. What? What happens when they stop talking? I don't know, Kelrin admitted. Because in all of human history, they've only gone silent before war. Totalvar, and they've never lost. The chamber erupted in debate. Some laughed at the suggestion. Humanity was peaceful. Humanity were diplomats, not warriors. They had a military, yes, but everyone did. Theirs was nothing special. Competent but unremarkable. Others weren't so sure. Within 12 hours, every human ship departed council space. Not fleeing in panic, not racing away in fury. They simply left. Filed departure plans, followed traffic protocols, and vanished into the deep black. Within 24 hours, every human embassy closed. Staff packed with quiet efficiency and departed. They answered no questions. They made no statements. They simply smiled politely and left. Within 48 hours, the human relay network, the vast communications infrastructure they had built and maintained for 70 years, went dark. Every beacon, every station, every listening post silent. The galaxy's communications shattered into fragments. Species that had relied on human-maintained routes found themselves isolated. Trade corridors that had been stable for decades became uncertain. The vast web of connections that humanity had woven across the stars simply ceased to exist. And still, humanity said nothing. 3 weeks passed. The Thranic Empire declared it a non-event. Other species gradually returned to their business. Some even spoke with relief. Perhaps humanity had been too influential, too involved in everyone's affairs. Perhaps this was natural. Species grew tired of galactic politics. They isolated. History had seen it before, but Kelrin couldn't sleep. He spent his nights reviewing human historical records, battle analyses, strategic patterns, cultural studies, and the more he read, the more terrified he became. Because humanity didn't just wage war. When pushed to silence, when pushed beyond words, they transformed. They became something their friends barely recognized, and their enemies didn't live long enough to warn anyone. On day 22 of humanity's silence, a single beacon flickered back to life. Deep space listening stations detected it first. A human relay, broadcasting on all frequencies. Every species received the same message. Simple, clear, impossible to misunderstand. It contained coordinates, a location in the Thranic Eastern Territories, and a countdown timer, 47 days, nothing else. No explanation, no demands, no threats. Just coordinates and a number counting slowly toward zero. The Thranic ambassador demanded an explanation from Earth. He received no response. Thranic ships attempted to approach the coordinates. They found nothing but empty space. The sector was unremarkable. No strategic value, no resources, no colonies, just coordinates, and a countdown. What are they doing? Someone asked Kelrin during an emergency council session. The xenologist's chromatophores had been locked in deep black for days. They're not telling us, he said quietly. That's the point. We wanted silence. Now we have it. But what does it mean? Kelrin turned to look at the Thranic ambassador. It means, he said slowly, that humanity has spent 22 days doing something. Building something, planning something. And they want you to know exactly where and exactly when. They want you to come and see. That's ridiculous, the Thranic snapped. They're bluffing. Trying to intimidate us with mystery? Perhaps, Kelrin agreed. But I've studied human history. Do you know what they're famous for? Bridge building, peacemaking, and when those fail, he paused. The only thing more terrifying than a human who wants to kill you is a human who has taken the time to carefully plan how. The countdown continued. 46 days, 45, 44, and humanity remained silent. The mathematics of vengeance. The galaxy had never known such quiet anxiety. Ambassador Kelrin had stopped attending council sessions. Instead, he spent his time in the xenological archives, surrounded by records few bothered to read. Human wars, human psychology, human culture. Every document painted the same picture. A species that preferred words but never forgot arithmetic. 15,000 civilians. The bright tomorrow carried exactly 15,000 souls. Kelrin's assistant found him on day 38 of the countdown, staring at casualty reports from humanity's past conflicts. Sir, the Council wants your assessment. The Thranic Empire is mobilizing 3 battle fleets. They're convinced this is an attack. They want to know if you agree. Kelrin didn't look up from his screens. Of course it's an attack. Humanity doesn't bluff. When they commit to action, they follow through with mathematical precision. Then we should warn the sector. Evacuate civilian populations near the coordinates. There are no civilian populations near those coordinates. That's the point. Humanity chose an empty sector deep in Thranic military space. Whatever they're planning will only affect those who come looking for a fight. His assistant rippled with confusion. Then it truly is a trap? No, Kelrin said quietly. A trap implies deception. Humanity told them exactly where to look and exactly when. They've given them 47 days to prepare. That's not a trap. That's an invitation. An invitation to what? To understand the cost of their decisions. The Thranic fleets arrived at the coordinates on day 45. 3 full battle groups. 218 ships. Enough firepower to sterilize a dozen worlds. They found nothing. Empty space. Silent stars. No human ships. No weapons platforms. No hidden stations. The Thranic commander transmitted on all frequencies. We have arrived at your coordinates, humanity. We see no threat. No fleet, no weapons. Is this your grand demonstration? Empty space? Silence answered him. You have 48 hours to reveal your intentions, the commander continued, or we will consider this a failed bluff and resume normal operations. The countdown reached 012 hours later, and then humanity answered. Not with words, with mathematics. The human fleet emerged from faster than light in perfect formation, not around the Thranic ships, not near them, exactly surrounding them. Every vector, every angle, every possible escape route blocked with precision that computers would struggle to match. The Thranic commander had spent 30 years studying fleet tactics. He had never seen anything like it. Ships appeared from FTL so close that their shields nearly touched. Weapon systems already hot, targeting solutions already locked. It should have been impossible. FTL navigation couldn't be that precise. Ships needed time to orient after transition, time to analyze, time to respond. The humans had taken no time at all. This is Commander Sarah Okonkwo of the Human Defense Fleet, a voice finally spoke. Calm, professional. The voice of someone reading through a checklist. You are surrounded. Power down your weapons. Prepare to receive boarding parties. The Thranic commander felt his mandibles lock with fury. We outnumber you 3-1. You have 15,000 ships, Okonkwo interrupted. The slight pause made it clear the number was not accidental. We have exactly 15,000 more than we need. Power down your weapons. Now. The Thranic fleet opened fire. What happened next would be analyzed in military academies for generations. The human ships didn't scatter, didn't evade. They moved like they had rehearsed this exact scenario 1,000 times, because they had. Every Thranic firing solution, every tactical doctrine, every command pattern. Humanity had spent 47 days modeling this engagement down to the individual weapon discharge. The battle lasted 17 minutes. When it ended, 183 Thranic ships were disabled. Propulsion destroyed, weapons offline, life support intact. 35 had been destroyed outright when they refused to stand down. The human fleet had taken minimal damage and they had lost exactly 0 ships. Okonkwo's voice returned to the open channel. Thranic Empire, you destroyed 15,000 civilian lives. In exchange, you will provide 15,000 military personnel to face trial for war crimes. These ships now contain approximately 14,800 Thranic crew. We will take 200 more from your nearest garrison. The mathematics must balance. You can't, the Thranic commander began. We already have. Your government may formally declare war if they choose. We will not respond to declarations. We will not engage in negotiations. We will simply respond to aggression with precisely calculated action. You wanted us silent. You have your wish. From now on, we speak only in outcomes. The human fleet began boarding operations with the same clinical efficiency. Medical teams treated wounded. Engineers secured reactors. And data specialists copied every log, every recording, every communication that proved the Bright Tomorrow's destruction was no accident. Within 6 hours, the human fleet departed. They left the disabled Thranic ships with enough power for distress signals and enough supplies to survive until rescue arrived. They took exactly 15,000 prisoners. Not one more, not one less. Then they vanished back into FTL, leaving behind a field of crippled warships and a galaxy that finally understood. Humanity had not been bluffing. They had been preparing, calculating, planning. While the galaxy debated and discussed, while politicians argued about procedure and protocol, humanity had been solving an equation. 15,000 lives lost. 15,000 lives claimed in return. The variables balanced. The mathematics satisfied. Justice reduced to its most fundamental arithmetic. Ambassador Kelrin sat in his tank and read the reports with chromatophores so dark they appeared black. Around him, the council dissolved into chaos. Some species demanded action against humanity's aggression. Others called for immediate negotiations. The Thranic Empire formally declared war, though their fleets seemed curiously reluctant to engage. But Kelrin understood what others missed. This wasn't aggression. This was communication. Humanity had stopped using words because words had failed. Now they spoke in the only language the galaxy seemed to understand: consequences. 3 days after the engagement, a single transmission reached the council. Not a diplomatic message, not a threat, just information. A complete accounting of the Bright Tomorrow incident. Every warning the colonists had sent, every identification protocol they had followed, every defensive measure they had taken to avoid conflict, and attached to it a single line of text. The silence continues until the galaxy learns to listen. No signature, no demands, no negotiations, just a statement of fact. Kelran drafted his report to the council that night. His recommendation was simple: leave them alone. Humanity is no longer interested in our debates. They have withdrawn from our politics. They will defend their interest with precision and overwhelming force, but they will not conquer. They will not expand. They will simply exist in their silence and dare us to make the first move. And if species refuse to leave them alone? Someone asked during the closed session. Kelran's color shifted to deep violet. Then those species will learn what humanity spent 2 centuries trying to teach us with words, that there are consequences for actions, that justice is not a suggestion, and that the species who built bridges across the galaxy knows exactly how to burn them down. The countdown had reached 0. The mathematics had balanced. But humanity's silence continued, and in that silence, the galaxy finally learned to be afraid of peacemakers, who had set down their words and picked up their calculators. Because humanity had always believed in justice. They had simply realized that some species would never understand it through conversation. Some lessons had to be written in disabled fleets and perfectly balanced equations of cause and effect. The stars themselves seemed quieter now, as if they too were waiting to see what would happen next. As if they too understood that humanity had not stopped being peacekeepers. They had simply realized that sometimes peace must be enforced in silence, with mathematics and absolute, terrifying precision. End.